Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We've just kicked things off, so we're going to give everyone a few seconds to filter in from the waiting room and get online, and then we'll kick things off. Thanks for your patience. Great. Wilson, if you could just go over to the next slide, I'll just go through some housekeeping notes real quick while people join us. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our webinar. My name is Sarah, and I am a member of the marketing team here at Bullhorn. Before we kick things off, I just have a couple housekeeping notes we're going to cover real quick. First and foremost, today's session will be recorded, and you will be receiving a copy of that recording within the next 24 hours over email. So you can definitely reference this again or share it around after the fact. Secondly, all attendees will be muted during today's presentation, but we strongly encourage you to ask questions in the Q&A section throughout the webinar. We'll have time at the end to cover Q&A and get to as many questions as we can. And third, we should wrap up in about 45 minutes, including that Q&A session. Now I'll pass things over to one of our speakers, Wilson, to kick things off.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wilson Reed. I'm the product marketing manager for analytics and our other business intelligence tools at Bullhorn. And with me today is Joe McGuire. Joe, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. Joe McGuire, I'm the Sales and Strategy Director for Analytics. I joined Bullhorn back in November 21 through acquisition. I was Chief Revenue Officer at Cube 19, which has now become Bullhorn Analytics.
All right, well today we're going to be talking about overcoming economic uncertainty using data and analytics. So to begin, we just want to look back over the past 3 years. It's what's been happening in the market and what's happening now. So if there's anything we've learned here in the past 3 years, it's that change is a constant. The world has changed so dramatically over the last several years, and the staffing industry has been right alongside those changes. So the global pandemic and the talent shortage really accelerated digital adoption in the space, but looming economic uncertainty has created a new set of challenges. So the global economy has experienced dramatic increases in inflation. In turn, that's caused the cost of money to go up, and hoping that we're finding a balance of supply and demand to reduce inflation. But meanwhile, economic growth is going to slow, companies are going to tighten their belts, and they're going to be more selective in hiring. So as a result, our clients are seeing fewer job orders than they had in the last couple of years. And this, when you combine it with the continued talent shortage, is creating some difficulties for staffing agencies. So with these things in mind, we want to do a quick poll. What are your main concerns for the year ahead? Okay, it looks like everybody is dealing with a combination of these things. So good to know that that hits home and everybody is resonating. It's just the state of the market today, right? Talent shortage never went away. Economic uncertainty leading to we just don't know what's going to happen next. So you're seeing less and less orders. It's just how things are going. Well, with that said, we know we're all experiencing the same challenges, but given the trends that we're seeing in the market, it's no surprise that we're seeing our staffing and professionals priorities shift, right? They're shifting towards addressing these challenges. So in our yearly grid survey, we surveyed over 2,000 staffing professionals. They said their immediate priority was winning new clients. Now, if you remember from last year, talent acquisition was the #1 priority then. That's now moved to number 3 behind digital transformation. So digital transformation was number 2. And this is really an acknowledgement by staffing firm executives that the status quo is no longer going to cut it. They realize that market conditions have created a compelling event that's forcing them to digitally transform their business and look for opportunities to be more effective in an increasingly competitive marketplace. Well, staffing professionals are saying that increased competition is the number 1 challenge to winning that new business. So along with some other things, but increased competition is the number 1 challenge. So not only are there fewer opportunities now, but the competition to win that new business is fierce, and it requires that you're differentiating yourself from your competitors to gain an edge. So despite the seemingly growing challenges and the negatives that we're addressing here, there is still good news.
Yeah, and I think economic uncertainty is nothing new. We're in a cyclical industry that is closely aligned to overall economic situations. So when market conditions are strong, there's lots of job opportunities, and actually unemployment starts to fall and talent becomes sparse. If you could flick on a slide, please, Will. And the opposite is true when there's a downturn in the market as well. Now, I think what we've experienced in the last couple of years is an extreme like we've not seen before, the talent shortage. And actually, I don't think it's going away just yet, because right now, we're actually just after a peak. So when we start to think about this and visualize it, there is still, in most industries, a lot of jobs available. There is still a talent shortage. And like I say, I think that's going to continue in most industries for a period of time. And the thing I'm trying to highlight here is that there is still a huge amount of opportunity immediately in front of us. Whether we go into a recession, how deep the recession is yet to be confirmed. But even during those times, companies still hire, and it's about increasing return on effort and investing in the right places with the right amount of time and energy to succeed as highly as possible. And really, the companies that are utilizing data, technology, and improving process continually are the companies that will always outperform the market, whether the times are good or bad.
So these market, you said something.
Sorry. Go ahead, Will. Sorry.
So these market trends are creating headwinds for growth and a compelling event, like I said, for staffing executives to look for new ways to address what they're experiencing in the marketplace. And you can see from this exec forum data here that in times such as these, where agencies need to be more flexible and more efficient, analytics is a difference maker. Firms are either using data and analytics and benchmarking to drive their decision making, or they're looking at how they can adopt the technology to better leverage their data. So that's really because if you're in a difficult market and you aren't using your data to help differentiate and run more successfully, then ultimately you're falling behind. So we touched on digital transformation being a priority for staffing professionals, but with these increasing competitive pressures, now is the time for staffing agencies to take action to implement not just a digital transformation strategy, but really look at digital differentiation as a strategy. So that's still digitizing your data set to gather your teams around a single source of truth, and automating processes to add time and bandwidth to the workday, as well as empowering your clients with self-service options. But underpinning all of this activity now is a focus on how can we leverage data and analytics at every part of the sales and recruiting process to be more effective and gain a competitive advantage. And we're seeing that with analytics customers. Customers who are strategically leveraging analytics from their Bullhorn data set notice a significant impact across their businesses, really within a very short space of time. So results like better submission to placement ratio and higher contractor retention directly address the talent shortage concerns that we talked about earlier. And also, more growth in the number of new business deals these customers are closing shows that analytics helps to overcome the challenge of winning new business despite increased competition in the marketplace. So realistically, agencies that adopt analytics are seeing more growth in general. And that said, every agency is in a different stage of their journey to be able to maximize the potential of their data. So that's something we like to acknowledge.
Yeah, I really always think about data as a journey because businesses evolve continuously, challenges in the market evolve, and the questions that are being asked in a business are always evolving as well, and new questions are being asked. So I think it has to be viewed almost as a never-ending journey. You don't suddenly complete data because you're going to want to evolve continuously throughout. Now, I do think that you can break the journey into 4 stages. And I'm just going to run through quickly how I view these stages. Now, sometimes an entire company will be at a stage, but often, particularly in larger businesses, different departments, teams, sometimes individuals are at different stages of this journey too. So I won't focus too much on flying blind because fortunately most of the industry's moved past there now. But actually, even in the flying blind stage, companies are using data, but it tends to be everyone's got their own version of their own spreadsheet and they're running their own direction. It can be a bit chaotic at times. But like I say, I think a lot of companies have since moved on from there. And we still see quite a large number of companies in the industry that are sitting in the hindsight phase or stage of the journey where there's a reliance or maybe sometimes an over-reliance on an individual or small group of people to distribute information to the masses. It's not particularly scalable because there's a feedback cycle and it takes time to generate manual or semi-manual reports, format them and distribute them. So by the nature of these typically spreadsheet-driven reports, it's all backwards looking. By the time the information has been put together, we can only look backwards with hindsight. Now, it's a really important stage because to learn from what has happened is important, but unfortunately, we can't change the past. The best we can say is if we'd done something differently last week, we may have been more successful yesterday. Now, where companies are investing heavily, both time and money, is trying to move into the oversight stage. Now, ultimately, this again is a very important part of the journey, but by the nature of this, it takes a lot of time just to automate the hindsight reports, so to get them more readily available. So ultimately, this doesn't necessarily move the needle dramatically because people have the same reports they previously had, but just maybe a bit faster. And these reports typically are aimed at management information, which is hugely important for strategic decision-making, but it also means there's a huge part of a staffing business that's going underserviced by data. And that is the front office managers and producers, sales reps, recruiters. And really, they're the people that actually need a lot more data, a lot more granular data and the ones that can affect positive change the fastest. So really, we see a lot of companies hit the good enough line once they've invested a lot in automating their hindsight reports. But where we want to help customers get to, and where Bullhorn Analytics takes customers is into the foresight stage, where there's a world-class data culture and CRM adoption, where there's real-time actionable insights delivered to the desk that show producers the actions to take today to be more successful tomorrow. It ultimately helps improve the hindsight reporting. So that's what we're going to focus on more today is foresight, what foresight actually means and how you can bring it into the day-to-day in the business. We go on to the next slide. So we want to run just a little poll now, just to get a bit of perspective on here. Where does everyone think they are in their data journey right now, or where do you think your business is in the data journey? Right. So 49% say hindsight, 41% say oversight. So very common from what we see in typical conversations anyway, is that there's this real desire to progress further through the journey. And like I say, I'm sure there's been a lot of investment going into this already, and I fully support that investment. Fortunately, yeah, very few in the flying blind, but also if you're in that stage still, don't worry, it's an evolution. You're not doing anything wrong. You're at an earlier stage in your journey. So hopefully this will be helpful today. So I just want to focus a bit more in these challenges. So I think from the initial poll, the combination of the economic uncertainty, the talent shortage, and fewer jobs, I think was ranked the highest in terms of what people have kept up awake about at night. But if I focus in on the candidate problem, the talent shortage, often when I talk to staffing leaders and I ask the question of how are you going to overcome this challenge, a really common answer I get is we just need to source more candidates. We need to find more candidates. Now, I wholeheartedly agree that a solid sourcing strategy is essential, and making it scalable is really important. But I also think there's a faster way to overcome the challenge, because I actually believe that a lot of the time, staffing companies already are working with enough candidates, but they're not placing enough. So statistically, if you get a candidate multiple interviews rather than just a single interview, you place them more frequently. And that might sound very logical and like a lot of common sense, but when we look at the statistics, 90% of candidates only ever interview with a single client through a staffing agency, which means they're probably working with the competition and interviewing elsewhere already. But the fact is, if you get a candidate only a single interview, you will only place 1 in 4. So you'll only place 25% of the candidates that you work with. And that's 90% of the time that's happening. Now, if you were just we're very much talking about marginal gains here, a slight change in mindset and perspective. And if we were to ask recruiters to make sure we get a candidate at least 1 additional client interview, you actually go from a 1 in 4 chance to a 1 in 3 chance. Present them to a third customer, and you actually start to place 1 in 2 candidates, 50% of candidates. So this is with people you already know, you're already working with, they probably hopefully trust you already. You've built that relationship, and it's about making sure you improve candidate placement rate throughout. Now, if you took just 20% of the candidates you worked with and presented them to only 1 additional client, it would equate statistically to 7% more placements from candidates you already know and you're already working with. So I'm going to focus in on how we adapt and change this, but I think the industry is evolving very much from traditional KPIs. Traditional KPIs are volume-based metrics. How many things did someone do? Whereas I think quantity is very important, but the quality and direction of efforts is probably more important. So making sure that the availability of data and awareness of these ways to marginally gain are presented across the business. Now, if we stick on the candidate side for just a moment before we flip to client, I think redeployment, temp and contractor redeployment, in my opinion, is the biggest missed opportunity in the global staffing market. Only 4% of temps or contractors finishing their assignment are redeployed onto their next assignment by the same staffing company, which is extremely low. Considering with all the factors behind it, you know the person, they trust you, you've got them compliant and payrolled, you've got the reference from their last job because that was your client too. But why are so few being redeployed? Well, we have to look at the root cause of these problems. And the fact is that, if you click on, please, Wilson.
It's okay. There we go.
There we go. So only 4% of temps are redeployed by the same agency. And that's because only 15% of the people coming to the end of their assignment are ever even submitted to a new job by that same firm. So it's the fundamental underlying action that's missing. We can't redeploy if we're not submitting, subject to industry, of course. But for the most part, that is a thing that needs to happen, a submission and probably an interview in a lot of industries. So it's, again, about highlighting the problem, looking at the statistics behind it, but then ultimately coming through to what the solution is in just a moment. But again, it's looking at the fill rate within there as well. It's about saying that you place more of it's easier to place a candidate you've already placed for the reasons I've mentioned previously. Now, there's always 2 sides to staffing. You need a client and you need a candidate to be able to make some money. So when we look at the client issue here, so client acquisition is a high priority for many people on this call. But looking at client churn is a really important thing here. And if you look statistically, on average, 50% of clients that you work with every year churn. You don't work with them the following year. Now, there's legitimate reasons for some of that. Perhaps the client was only hiring some spot placements. Unfortunately, sometimes people go out of business. So there's legit reasons when you're not going to continue working with clients. But a majority of the time, it's because someone forgot to contact them again. The account manager or the sales rep moved on to pastures new, and forgot about the client. Now, the statistics on the right-hand side are actually highlighting return on effort with clients as well. And just by the nature of this business, some clients demand more effort. So what we're looking at here is submission to placement ratio. So submissions being the effort, placements being the outcome. And the green section of this is highlighting the easiest 25% of placements, or the clients that give the easiest 25% of placements. And they actually are equated from less than 10% of the submission effort. So less than 10% of effort, 25% of return. When you look at the flip of that into the red section, the hardest 25% of placements come from over 50% of the effort. So any client sitting in that red bracket could be more efficient, hopefully will be more efficient, if the right data points and information are in the hands of the account manager and sales rep to go and have these strategic conversations with customers and inform them why or how or to improve that process and that efficiency throughout. And I like combining these two statistics because of the 50% of clients that are going to churn every year, are they churning from the red bucket, the yellow bucket, or the green bucket? I would hope more from the red bucket in this scenario, but looking at those data points and not just considering the spend a client gives, but how much effort you put in to achieve that spend. That's a really, really important factor that I really recommend everyone, where possible, go and have a look at. So, steps to overcome these challenges. Real-time data. You know, it's so fundamental. Moving away from this hindsight where we get daily or weekly or monthly reports to look back at what we did or didn't do, bringing that data and putting it in real time so you can understand how your business is being impacted, but also being able to look at trends and see ahead of time as quickly as possible where market conditions might be changing. Are your jobs per head going up or down? That would be an indication of what market conditions are doing. Are your submissions per job going up or down? Again, that will be an indication of availability of talent in the market. And the more of this data you have at your fingertips, the faster you can pivot. And that's how companies that are invested in data and technology in the right places are able to perform ahead of the market in times good or bad, as mentioned earlier. But leveraging this data to influence automation. Automation and analytics are best friends. You know, they live harmoniously together because they're both designed to support producers, help them. So automation to do a chunk of the work that fundamentally is probably high volume, low value, get a machine doing that quickly. There's a bunch of things that only humans can do and should do, like in terms of building relationships and so on. And it might be data quality or adoption related. So there's a whole bunch of things that will be influenced by data that you can automate to, again, assist and enhance the recruiter process. But delivering actionable insights, real-time actionable insights that show people the actions that they should take today to be more successful tomorrow, rather than being over-reliant on volume-based metrics. How many submissions did you make? How many interviews did you arrange? Again, they play an important part, but the specific quality and direction of the efforts is the real focus here. So, what are actionable insights? So I think actionable insights, ultimately, I've talked about it a bit, so I'll explain them a bit now, but they're the differentiator. It is the ability to shift away from these traditional KPIs or evolve the traditional KPIs to be more value-based metrics, more value-based tasks and actions that help people remember. You know, sales and recruiting is a tough job. I've done it myself. There's a million things to remember all the time. And sometimes like perspective is needed to be able to see, well, I'm investing all this time over here with a client that doesn't give a great return, and I should be focusing time on this client, or these candidates I've got to interview elsewhere. People want to interview them, they're good candidates. How do we give ourselves the best chance of placing them? So again, it's these marginal gains and a new perspective and a different way of considering data. So what are actionable insights in their entirety? So this is 3 examples, by the way. Actionable insights go all the way through the business development process, through sourcing, deployment, and redeployment to drive efficiency. If we look at a more traditional standard metric, and these are all related to the examples and data points I gave earlier, but things like first interviews, it's important to know how many first interviews you're arranging. But is it more valuable to put that metric in front of a recruiter and their wider team to say, here's the list of candidates that you've arranged an interview for that haven't been submitted anywhere else? Because if we get them in front of just one more client, we should increase placements by 7%, and so on. So it's really important, is that true action of who should I be talking to and when should I talk to them. Flowing that through to the redeployment, 4% redeployment is very low, but how do you improve that number? Well, actually, tracking redeployment in itself is quite a hard statistic because there's quite a few data points and variables within there. But how do you improve it? You automate the metrics and candidates that are finishing their assignment that haven't had the necessary activities to redeploy. Now, I appreciate every vertical is different, every industry is different, but so these metrics are flexible to each customer as well. It's about making sure this really fits your terminology and your business processes and so on. So it's a really unique offering to help drive performance. And then if we focus on the BD side, if I focus just on the client churn side for a moment, how many BD calls did we make, or how many BD SMSs did we send, or whatever process you're using? Would it be more valuable to show sales reps and account managers the clients they placed with previously that they haven't contacted recently? Again, there's a relationship of sorts there. There's probably signed terms of business, I would hope, if there's been a placement. So going back in and doing business with a company you've already done business before is easier than a net new company. And it hopefully then will reduce churn in the right areas. So look, we're sort of coming near to wrapping up and open up for Q&A in a moment, but what we wanted to really point out today is that data is a complex thing. We can simplify it and help simplify getting those data points, and speed to value is a really important thing here. But the way these data points differ from the way most other reporting systems work is that this was designed with a desk in mind, first of all. How do we deliver information to the masses that help them be more productive, more empowered in their day-to-day, to know when to talk to clients and candidates about certain topics, and drive that performance throughout. Also influencing automation as well. But making sure it's self-serve. A lot of the time when there's this reliance on a small group of people to deliver reports, it's impossible for them to answer every question that's asked. So sometimes questions stop getting asked. So it's about making sure that the right person can get to the right info that they need. If they're about to have a client meeting or a PSL review or whatever it might be, just being able to bring up all the data for that client for the last 12 months to go and have an informed conversation and explain to them why they believe the process is inefficient and how they think they can improve it, but with contextual data to back up that thought process. But also Bullhorn adoption. ATS CRM adoption is something that I think everyone is working on getting the best they possibly can out of it. There has to be something in it for the user that's putting the data in. So by them engaging in their own real-time data with actionable insights that show them how to be more productive in their day-to-day and get a better return on their effort, it drives Bullhorn adoption. We also will highlight for you any gaps in the process so you can train and hold accountability to people as well. But these three things are fundamentally important, and they're the key differentiators with Bullhorn Analytics. Like I mentioned, we've picked out 4 statistics today with some actionable insights that would help improve them. But the conversation is far wider than this, so we absolutely welcome any questions or follow-up conversations.
All right, that's it. That's the end of the presentation. So if there are any questions, now is a great time to ask.
So there's a question here. How many customers are using Bullhorn automation? How many customers who are using the Bullhorn automation see value in utilizing analytics? Are there automations that can tie data from analytics to then automation across certain actions? So we are more deeply integrating analytics and automation as we speak. So, but absolutely, we see statistics where database utilization increases when automation is used alongside analytics. So we've got some customers where 90% of the candidates they place are candidates that they sourced from their Bullhorn ATS rather than having to look externally. We see job fill rates increase. We see candidate placement rates increase. And these things can be used in a combination of different ways. Ultimately, automation underpinning the process and making sure that there's those regular cadence and connection and value add to the customer, while the humans doing the thing that humans do best and building those relationships out. So absolutely the value of the combination is there. And there are some things like some data quality metrics that we highlight where there are perhaps gaps in the process, and some of the automation blueprints are designed to be connected to those in the sense of, we know there's a gap, how do we automate and improve? In the case of candidates with only one interview, how does the tool help find appropriate or other jobs for that candidate? So this again is where the Bullhorn suite of products really becomes useful. So automation has a job matching function within it. So highlighting who these candidates are and then utilizing the matching function, or tools like Sourcebreaker by Bullhorn. There's lots of combinations of solution out there that we bring to the table as a package effectively to help overcome all of these things. I think I'm going to the chat as well.
Yeah. So analytics can be a big investment. So how quickly can someone see value or return on that?
Yeah, to be honest, it's I talk to companies all the time where perhaps they've gone out to market to try and build something themselves with Power BI or Tableau, and that can run into the millions very easily, and those projects can last multiple years to get to any kind of value because of you have to build all the foundations in. So Bullhorn Analytics is different because this platform was built for Bullhorn customers to utilize their ATS data, which means that implementation times are short. Depending on the size of a business, it's weeks rather than weeks to a couple of months typically is what you would see for most businesses, rather than years or many months. So, but the idea is that because of the style of the platform, it's designed for the end user and their managers and leadership. But because the end user gets immediate value and is prompted to take specific actions, the uptick is very quick. The value is very quick. And we're seeing redeployment rates increase very quickly after go live because people are taking the fundamental actions, just as one example.
Yeah, I think we got another one just came in. How much user control is there over how the job matching is done? We have service, retail, and hospitality. So anything IT focused is not of any use to us. And can you find candidates who match a job, or just jobs that match a candidate?
Rob, I will actually defer that question and ask maybe your account manager to be contact about that, because that's not my area of speciality, I'm afraid. But it's a very good question, and your account manager will be able to answer that for you. So we'll take that as a side note. Does my agency have to be at a certain stage of the digital transformation journey to benefit from analytics? The answer to that, I believe, is no. You need an ATS. You need Bullhorn to get analytics attached to it, but that would be the only stage of the journey you would need to be at to get value. Our customers that get value from the analytics platform range from one-person organizations up to multi-thousand user companies. So the product is adaptable to fit the industry you service, the type of job roles that you work with, and because of the nature of actionable insights, will deliver value straight away and actually often assist in the data journey because of the transparency and understanding of the business.
New one here. How does this compare to the reporting available in Canvas?
Yeah, very different products that solve a very different use case. So Canvas is a very powerful platform, which with the right sort of level of expertise and skills, you can build really valuable reports. Analytics and Canvas actually, they sit hand in hand. They're great when combined together, because there's a bunch of these sort of repeatable reports that leadership will probably need on regular intervals, sometimes extremely complex reports, which Canvas will deliver. Bullhorn Analytics is then designed more for the front office productivity driver. So I'd say it doesn't really compare because they're very different products to solve very different use cases.
Okay, I think one more here. Can we share a link to the trends report that we talked about? So yes, we can share a link to the grid report, and we might actually include that in a follow-up to the session today. Just include a link to the 2023 grid report.
Yeah.
Just drop that in chat.
One just dropped in the chat. Okay.
So I think we've maybe got time for a couple more questions. There's one that, is there one area that people see the most value in analytics? What is the most valuable metrics? So I wouldn't say there's any one area. It's the combination, being able to get the holistic view of the business and the processes to see what's working, what's not working, where the efficiencies or inefficiencies are, and then focusing in on the metrics that are suitable to help improve. Now that will vary by industry, by size of business, by region, but very much so it's about, you know, having that flexibility, the end-to-end visibility and flexibility across the process. And you'll find that different personas and roles within the business will use analytics very differently, because the sales team will have metrics very sales focused, and recruiting will have recruiting focused, and you know, marketing or finance or leadership will have different metrics again. So it's a highly adaptable platform, and I wouldn't even call that any one. What would I call that? Let's just, if I'm going to call one today and be put on the spot, I'll say redeployment, because I did say it's the biggest missed opportunity in the industry. Look at your redeployment stats, but more importantly, where the activity is not happening. That's my tip for today. We've had a question here about, appears to be a Bullhorn Analytics customer already, that you work with the lovely support folk. Thank you for the feedback. The candidates who have had an interview but no placements. So we're regularly looking to enhance the platform. I think the question here is, how do you get access to that metric? So if your actionable insights went live before that metric was available, you won't have it. If you contact the support team, it's a standard metric that they will roll out to you as a support ticket. All right, I think, how are we looking? What?
That might be it. I don't think we have any more.
Well, I'd just like to thank everyone for taking the time out of your busy days to listen to us talk for 40 minutes. Hopefully you found some value in that, and there's some action points you can take away from today. You don't need to go and buy a new solution to start doing some of these things immediately. Platforms, technology will help and assist and help you shortcut. But our objective of today is to give some new ideas, maybe some new perspectives on how you can hopefully get a better return on effort, which I'm sure is, like, you know, we're lucky to work in an industry where hard work and motivation is hardwired. So if we can help you and your recruiters get a marginal gain and a bit more productivity per head, it can have big results for the business, and that's our intention.
So thanks everybody for attending today. Be on the lookout for a follow-up email and a recording. The link will be shared later on. So thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.